That's a pretty sweet introduction. If you got that recorded, you can maybe send that to me, and I'll YouTube that one, rather than some of the other stuff that people post. So yeah, it's I don't put butterflies around things. We deal with things as they are, and we deal with reality. And what I'm going to show you today, and what happened in High River, is it's not a High River discussion. This is North America that needs to start paying attention to this stuff much better. And primarily in my world, as the mayor, is how we develop our communities around our riverways and our waterways now, and quit doing the real stupid things that we've done in the past, which is a lot of what I'm going to show you about is a couple of the areas that really were affected in High River. So I think everybody knows, excuse me, where High River is on the map. We're 40 minutes south of Calgary here, and we're very much a western town that's a ranching-based community, farming-based community. Our highlights right now, one of the big ones, of course, is the Heartland TV series that's been going since 2007, incorporated as a town February 12th, 1906. Population, 2011 census is 12.2, but we're at right about 13,000 right now. Everything else on there is just, I don't know, I guess if you're paying attention to that stuff, you'll read it, but we're right on Highway 2, straight south of Calgary. Our biggest employer would be the Cargill meat packing plant that actually sits in the MDF foothills, but is just a kilometer or so north of town, but employs about 1,100 people that most of them actually live in Calgary. The importance of that packing plant to us is the satellite business that surrounds the support of that plant, whether it be electricians, carpenters, all those kinds of things. Welders are big in there. So getting into what we want to talk about is the Highwood River, which it's not uncommon for the Highwood River to flood High River. High River was built on the floodplain, and as the river comes down out of the headwaters of the Rockies, once it hits High River is really where it just spreads out into the actual floodplain. So what we decided to do back in the day, I guess, was build right where it did that. We just dropped it right in the middle there. So beautiful place to be, but I'll get into that a little more. So what this graph shows are cubic meters per second. Down on the bottom are the years, so starting 1914 and coming all the way across to 2012. You can see that the two last ones are the ones that I'll speak to the most, is 1995 and then 2005. So 1995 was about 830 CMS, which was devastating in High River at that time. I lived through it, of course, and there was enough problems with that, with 830. Then we went through to 2005, which was 671 CMS, which still had its impacts. The interesting thing about the 2005 floods is that it went on for a couple of weeks. There was actually 3 floods that happened in those 2 weeks, so people were just getting cleaned up, and then it nailed us again. So June 20th, 2013, so there's a graph that'll show it better as to the scale later on here, but thinking about our previous big flood, which was, call it 700 CMS to 800 CMS, or 830 CMS, if I remember the right one. June 20th of 2013 was 1,850 CMS. That we have no correlation as to whether it's definitely not happened in the last 100 years. We don't actually know if it's ever happened before to that level. So that being said, we had to deal with it. So we're not going to, I was told not to really get into the actual response of it, but more how it impacted the town of High River. And the first big one was the loss of communications with TELUS and all self-service. Is very hard to communicate to each other as to who was safe and who needed help. So this is what downtown High River looked like. This is more at the start of the flood. At the peak of the flood, those vehicles would have been washed down the street, more like this. So all of downtown High River and 70% of High River was under about 4 to 5 feet of water. So residential neighborhood, this is actually just about 300 yards down the street from my house. So. The military came in a few days later. I'm not going to get into what they actually did or didn't do, which wasn't much. But, you know, they were there to help. I think it's maybe for you guys a little more important to touch on this a little bit. They came in to be part of the search effort to access the homes and see if anybody was living in there or stranded in there. Getting into that whole thing with the RCMP and everything that everybody's heard about, it absolutely was the right decision that they kicked the doors in. It's very easy to criticize that right now because they did not find anybody in distress. Well, there was a couple, but they didn't. If they'd have found one deceased person in one of those houses, the whole conversation changes. The fact that they didn't makes it very easy for the gun lovers and the cop haters to criticize what these guys did. But the way they did it in some circumstances, probably not the best. But when you get a bunch of jacked up young guys that are told just go access houses however you can, you know there's going to be a few rotten apples in there that are maybe going to take it a little bit too far. There. I wasn't going to say it, but I said it. This is a highway that opened just a year or so before the flood. This highway is, and I'll get into the map as to what happened there, but that highway has since been raised about 2 meters to, this is the highway that created the Hamptons issues, if you've heard about those. Just pictures of the response and the rescue efforts with manure hauling trucks keeping it rural. Manure hauling trucks and combines are what saved most people. And the odd helicopter if you wanted to get fancy. This is down 12th Avenue where our rec center is. Some of these speedboats, to give you an idea of how the force of the water that came down. A couple of my friends had Zodiac boats with jet motors on them, and in one part of town they could not go upstream. It was coming in so hard and fast that those Zodiacs couldn't even make their way through a couple of times, which is what caused the 2 deaths that actually did occur in High River. This is the Hamptons neighborhood. This is the lake that was created in High River. So the water came in and had absolutely no way to drain. All this water would actually drain down to the little bow naturally, but because of the infrastructure and the highways that were built, it was left as a lake. This is the Center Street Bridge in High River. In the top area there is the Wallaceville neighborhood that's actually being bulldozed as we speak. The CPR rail bridge has been removed since then, and we're just working with the province right now to replace that traffic bridge. Obviously needs to be much higher and wider. So the storm itself that created this flood, I think there was 2 or 3 storms, they say, that collided over top of the Highwood headwaters. And what it did was it actually dumped a foot of water in about a 3-kilometer area right over top of the Highwood headwaters, which is why it all happened so fast and all that water. Just usually when we get a flood like 95 or 05, we've got about 15 to 20 hours notice that the water's coming and to get ready. We had absolutely no warning on this one, which is what we've been fairly critical about, and as to how that happened, and I'll explain a little later as to what the the steps we've put into our emergency management department to make sure our notification systems are better. So there's the 1,820 on this graph. That's what compared to the two previous floods. That's where we're at. We had protection a little bit in town that probably kept most places safe to about that 900, 950 CMS is where we were at. So when the 1820 came, it pretty much went right over top of all the berms and dikes that we have. So this is just a video that I'm going to show that this is Worley Parsons software that does this, and the yellow is water, the rest of it's the town of High River. So. And it just shows how the water came down the Highwood, and then as the flooding began throughout town. And this was software that was developed before the flood happened. They'd been working on it for the past 5 years before the flood. They had never put this amount of water through their software. The interesting part about it was that when they did, it did exactly what the river actually did in reality. So pretty much the whole 70% of the town was underwater. Top 5 costliest natural disasters. I'm going to just bypass on this one. All it is a video that shows that we're number one. Winner. The next big one, the Slave Lake is number 5. The next one, comparable to this is the costliest Canadian natural disasters. It's not just High River. It's everybody that was affected in Alberta during that time, so which makes us the costliest one. The next one to us was the Ontario ice storms. So the evacuations, 13,400 people were evacuated. 5,000 homes. There's about 5,500 in High River that were evacuated. We had lots of support from our surrounding neighborhoods, being Nanton, Okotoks, Blackie, Black Diamond, Turner Valley, Calgary. Everybody just took people in. So this one, 8.5 hours for the river to peak. So that's substantially faster than. And I'll give you just my own. I've been through these floods a few times. So the morning that it happened, I was getting ready to go to work and sitting there watching TV at about 6:30. And watching on the news, watching Canmore absolutely getting freight trained. And sitting there thinking, gee, sucks to be them. And no word about High River, no word about the Highwood River, nothing. So everybody just went to work, and it wasn't until I own a funeral home in High River, and we had a service in the city, and so we were leaving for town at about 8:45, 9 o'clock. And it was at that time that I actually went across one of the bridges in town and went, we're going to get it too. I had no idea it would be what it was until about half an hour later my friends started texting me telling me that it's coming into downtown High River and our business is going to get nailed as well as our home. So that being said, when I came back to High River, I could absolutely not believe what was going on. That was a few hours later. So High River, our infrastructure was highly impacted with lift stations that were flooded themselves, and all the motors and everything quit in them, so they weren't doing anything. Not that they could spit the water anywhere, because everything else was full of water too. So communications was a massive one. Gas lines were broken, and then the lake that was created up in the northeast. This is one of the bridges going into the Montrose neighborhood. That's the force of the water that it did to that bridge and the roadway itself. Huge infrastructure damage. So this is how the only way to drain that lake that was in the Hamptons was to physically pump it out or mechanically pump it out. And that took about another week and a half to 2 weeks to get those two neighborhoods drained. All of council at the time, everybody's homes were damaged, which created a lot of problems for them, because the town staff and council, everybody, you're dealing with two things. You're trying to take care of the town, but you also got a home to get to deal with your personal life as well. So those were huge challenges for those guys, and I can't even fathom what that was like for them. But a lot of lessons learned from disasters from the people from Slave Lake that taught us a lot about it. The thing that's so much different about Slave Lake is that, you know, when you get into the recovery and the rebuild, that this is words right out of counselors out of Slave Lake, is that it's very easy to assess a house in Slave Lake because it's gone. It's burned to the ground, done. In High River, it got to be, you know, especially when it got into insurance and DRP funding, you know, well, what caused the damage in the basement? Is the house salvageable? Okay, we can fix this. Should we not fix that? Maybe, you know, was your foundation cracked before the flood, or was it actually because of the flood? And will insurance do it if it was because of the flood? Was it sewer backup? Was it just because the water blew the basement windows out of your house, Craig? Which, thank God, I had the right insurance company. That the guy walked in there and saw the windows blown out and said, "It looks like sewer backup to me." So gave him a kiss right on the lips right there. So as far as the town was, it was you know, trying to figure out how they were going to deal with this, and how to get town staff and the right resources in place properly to rebuild the town, not just people's homes, but our serious infrastructure problems that we had as to how to get it. So there was discussion as to, you know, augmenting with new staff and just building our current staff bigger, or a completely whole new town department, or an arm's length organization that would have been completely separate from the town. And what we did was kind of a hybrid of the middle two there. We had a whole new High River Renewal Administration department that dealt specifically with mitigation and infrastructure flood issues, and that's everybody from planning staff to engineering, emergency management, everybody that was completely separate. Today we're back. We've staffed down on the rebuild side of things, so we're all back in one office together now, and that's just how fast the recovery's come. The town office was obviously flooded, so everybody had to move out of there, and they put up ATCO shacks and sprung structures that the town worked out of. And just a few pictures of cleanup from one of the churches and some homes. Saddlebrook neighborhood that everybody knows about, this housed over, well, probably closer to 1,500 people at its peak. That was just south of Alderside is where that was built, and a very, very interesting project that was, and that one, that's a temporary thing that what I would definitely continue to support with for other disasters in other communities if I was ever asked. Getting people back in their homes and having some sense of home was huge to have these guys. And this way they weren't in Calgary, and they were able to be here, and being able to run to High River, which was only about 8 kilometers down the road, and fix their own homes. This was a massive, massive success. Yes, it cost a lot of money, but it was a massive success. The businesses, obviously, a lot of challenges there, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Workforce was a big one that, you know, everybody being forced out of their homes, and some people moved away, and some people, just everybody scattered and trying to fix their own life rather than going to work. So that was a real struggle for a lot of people. The renewal framework, this is where our council got involved after the election, October 21st, 2013. And it was just we've had amazing staff, and you know, our myself and our councillors, we get a lot of kudos for the rebuild of High River. And yeah, we've had to make the tough decisions, but I can't say enough about the actual staff that we've had that have come in to help rebuild this thing, because they're the ones that have actually, they're the smart people that actually know what they're doing to get this stuff up and running. So they've been just absolutely amazing in educating us. Again, all the NGOs, Samaritan's Purse, Habitat for Humanity, World Renew, Salvation Army, Red Cross, High River, and just individual volunteers. You don't clean up these events without individual volunteers, and it was unbelievable to us during that cleanup, the amount of people that came in, and it almost got to be a problem because there were so many people in town that you couldn't move around, and you couldn't get loads of garbage out and off the street and out of your house to. There was a few days there, but it only lasted 2 or 3 days while they just came in and they just ripped the house apart and get everything else and then move on to the next one. So it was frustrating, but at the same time you knew damn well there was no other way to make it happen, and you just thanked every one of them. This is just a quick video that has some clips to it as to
High River? Oh yes. High it was.
That's a little much.
Dramatic.
It is.
That river was higher than any of us could remember. Higher than anybody had ever seen before. Higher, faster, more treacherous and more destructive than an Alberta river had any right to be. That river washed right over our community and over our lives. The pictures and news couldn't really show how hard and fast that river came. Those of us who were here and saw it will never forget it. A tough time, yes. But the town's workers, residents, and even volunteers we've never met before are helping one another, reassuring each other and ourselves that no mere river can swamp us for long. And it won't. The water is receding now. And where once there was water and chaos, now in its place, we find strength and opportunity. We find a spirit that will not be stopped.
And lots of family and friends that are helping us. Great. We'll get them rebuilt.
We're High River strong, and nothing can take that away from us. It's time to reclaim our town. Time to rebuild our community. It's time to renew our commitment to each other as neighbors and friends. So that's what we'll do. Because that's who we are. As a community, we are proud of each and every one of you. We look to you now to offer your strength, your wisdom, your compassion. We're all here, ready to get to work, together. Ready to reclaim, rebuild, and renew. And ready to show the world what the people of our town can do.
It just gives a little more visual as to what actually went on that day. There's only one part of that video that my friend Sean there, that he said, and I know he didn't write the script, but it was about that with more force than any Alberta river has the right to do. They got every right in the world, and they will do it. So I don't know that we have the right to stand in its way, which is part of what you see in here. So we've got to be real careful with this stuff. So this is, what we've done since that day is where I'll go through now, and you can see along the dark black lines along the river there. Those are our new berms that we've built that protect High River to the 1850 CMS level, plus another meter of extra protection on those. So we didn't stop just as what we knew. We went a little bit above and beyond that. and as well made pathways on top of all of them. So the overall mitigation program, right now we've got about 8.5 kilometers of new berms and dikes in place to the tune of about $100 million. The other day there on Monday, we just received another $30 million to finish our burn down in the southwest area that is still vulnerable. There is temporary measures, but the temporary measures only go to about 1,100 CMS. So same graph again. So this shows, kind of back to that video that I showed before, all the colored areas, of course, is water depth. That's what it was like at the peak of the 2013 event. With the mitigation that we've put in place, this is the new map now. So you can see how the water comes and it's contained in that area, but also allowed to flow freely. And two big reasons for that are we physically removed two neighborhoods, one being the Beechwood neighborhood that the government of Alberta bought out as part of their floodway relocation program, and the other one was the Wallaceville neighborhood that was much worse in a much worse place than the Beechwood neighborhood, but for whatever reason it was not listed as being in the floodway. Therefore, those people had no way of accessing that relocation program, and about 80% of them in there just wanted the hell out. So that's where the town of High River, and we knew damn well it had to go as well, because it floods at 200 CMS. We don't need a big event. It floods every single year. A standard spring runoff is 300 CMS through High River. So Wallaceville flooded every year. So we just asked the government to do it and to pay for it. So this is the Beechwood neighborhood. Very high-end homes, all $1 million homes, large estate-style lots, all doctors and lawyers. Those types of people that lived in there. And this was these were really tough discussions for myself to have with these guys, and basically telling them that we fought this for quite a while, but I still think that there was probably a way of saving the community. The problem was that the impacts of saving it would make things worse on other development areas, because this area was developed right in the riverway. This is the Wallaceville area. Like I said, worst conversations I've ever had to have with people is telling them they got to get out of their house because we're going to tear it down. It's brutal, but it absolutely had to happen for the future of the whole community. Temporary business park. This has been a real interesting thing to go through as to how we handle business recovery in our communities. And I was involved with getting a sprung structure up before I became mayor, and knowing and thinking that it was the right thing to do. Knowing what I know now after watching the businesses go in there and then try to rebuild coming back out of that structure, I don't know that I would recommend doing that again. I think what it did was lots of the businesses that closed down in High River, I can think of one that actually closed because of the flood. Most of it was prior business problems that they were probably 6 months away from closing anyway, so they just didn't have the financial capacity to deal with a disaster like this. It was good, the optics of it, we kind of had to do it at the time to show that the town is still alive and we're going to make it happen, we're doing this, and I don't think it was the best thing at the end of the day for these businesses. I think it had been much better for the ones that went in here, that maybe they just closed their doors, got things rebuilt, and then opened their doors back up once downtown High River was rebuilt, because the financial impacts of the borrowing of money to stay going, et cetera, they're not in a very good position now, and I think we'll actually see a couple of 2 or 3 businesses close because of that. and a couple of the loan programs that were given out, one by AFSC that was very good, kind of said that it was bridge financing. The problem is it was 2 years of bridge financing, but now hi Carly, somebody I know, sweet. She's taking notes. I'm going to be in trouble when I get out of here. But, coming out of it, they've got these new loans that they have to pay back, and all those debts are coming due now where they have to start making the payments. And I don't know that a couple of them will make it, most of them, but these are graphs that building permits. Obviously, you can see the normal, and then the spike of 2013 with all the building permits that happened with housing and businesses. Electrical, gas, plumbing permits, that's awfully boring stuff to look at. Same thing, yeah, there was a spike in 2013. So demolition permits, obviously. A lot of homes that had to be demolished in High River. The biggest problem with that is they're 100-year-old homes with very poor foundations that just couldn't stand up to it. And if they had main floor damage, and most of them had to come down, which was sad to see, but it's not all that bad thing. We've got a pretty clean town right now, probably the most energy efficient town in Canada. Everybody in High River has a brand new high efficiency furnace in their house. We also are, from what I know now, but for a period of time there anyways, we were definitely grow-op free. Flood took care of that. We got mold because of other issues, not grow-ops now. So. Bill 27, this is a big one that we're paying attention to right now, and it deals with how municipalities develop in the floodway. We got to be way, way better at this, and your councils and your province officials got to be a lot stronger against developers. Developers love to crawl into that river because they can make a lot of money in it. Memories are very, very short with residents, and to the point where we've got one area in our northwest. When we built the berm up, they were the first people that were hit with the floodwaters. And when we built the berm up, it had to go so high that they lost their mountain view. Then I got a petition saying they wanted the berm taken down so they could have their mountain view back. My response was probably not the most.
Shouldn't have said it, but you did.
Yeah, I said it for sure. Memories are short. That was within 16 months after the flood that they wanted the berm to come down so they could have their mountain view back. So what I'm saying is we got to be way better at where we're developing in these floodways. This is the floodway map in High River, and how the province's map and the town map didn't really overlay exactly, but a few months ago we made that so that they are identical now. Big thing with what we did when we put our hands up to this council and myself, the big thing that we knew existed was the opportunity that was handed to High River to move ourselves into the future and redo things. Downtown High River, all of the underground infrastructure was impacted so bad that we had to dig up all the streets and repair all of the infrastructure underground. So when we were doing that, we said, okay, what do we want our streets to look like? Are we going back to this 1952 mentality of putting angle parking everywhere and trying to jam as many vehicles into every square foot of the town as we possibly can? And we absolutely said, no, we got to make it, we want it to be people-centered and focus on people. And the important thing is that when you focus on people, you cannot focus on vehicles. You have to actually focus on people. So this is the downtown infrastructure replacement. It's a massive project. There's 3 phases to it. Last year was phase 1, this year is phase 2. Phase 3 will happen next year. And this is what you saw, a few pictures of what downtown looked like before, but this is what it looks like today. We had 3 trees downtown High River prior to this. Now we've got about 10 or 12 on each street. This is 3rd Avenue. The top left one is 3rd Avenue in High River, and took out all the angle parking, reduced the parking, moved the parking over into proper parking lots, and put parallel parking in. And then this is 4th Avenue in town that we really designed this one to be people first, and there's no pavement on it. It's all pavers. It doesn't feel like you're supposed to be driving down it. We do have vehicle access down there because there's a large doctor's office down there, and blocking off traffic flow altogether is not a good way. There's a balance between the two. So did a lot of public consultations to get to where we're at today as to how we design things. Didn't necessarily listen to everybody, but we heard every one of them, because there's always a lot of people in your town that really don't want to do anything. They just wanted to go back to what they were used to. And that was a big thing in High River, is that they just wanted normal to come back as fast as possible after what they've been through. And I completely understand that, but if we'd have done that, we'd have looked back in 2 years and went, man, we just completely lost the whole opportunity that we had. Emergency preparedness, Carly Benson back there, she is our town of High River hero as to how she's put this emergency program together, and it's absolutely unbelievable. And a lot of fairly good discussions that happened around how we got our programs in place. But these household emergency guides are delivered to every home, and they're always available to everybody, because just because we have a bunch of berms built does not mean we are eliminated from risk. There is always risk of emergencies. It might not be a flood, it could be a gas line explosion, it could be a tornado anymore. So going back to what I talked about before with the notification of, or the lack of warning that we got on June 20th, since then we have a large siren system in town that is connected to our online High River alert system, and all our residents, well, not all of them, many of them are signed up for the High River alert system. So what happens when there's an emergency or an alert needed of any kind, Carly can just go online, put in what the emergency is, and it automatically goes to all our cell phones, and it'll text you, it'll phone you, it'll email you, and it'll pester the hell out of you until you say that you've received the notification. And people have been phoning us after we do the trials and say, well, yeah, this thing's really annoying. Well, it contacted me 28 times and wouldn't shut up. Well, that's what it's supposed to do, so that you know what's going on. So the siren system, as well as just public education as to how to deal with these. 72-hour kits are massive to have something. So many people in High River walked out of their house with absolutely nothing, thinking that they were coming back in about 12 hours. They were out for a week and a half, 2-3 weeks in some cases. So mental health concerns, that's a massive one. The anxiety and the stress that this puts on people is, you don't know it until you've been through it, and it's not the easiest thing to cruise through. The other part about it is it doesn't go away just because people are back in their homes. I know with the Red Cross, we've dealt with a lot of it, that now that people are back in their homes and things are coming back to normal and they've got a chance to sit on the couch and take a breath, that's where all this stuff starts to pour out of them. And that's where we're really seeing a lot of these stress issues and mental health concerns coming into play just now. So that's why we have to keep the resources going for those people. Funding and support, I could go on and on and on. It's a lot of money. June 25th, automatically got $50 million from the government. That's just for our staffing and the rebuild initiatives that we have. Since that $50 million, we've also got another $42 million that's being used for that. There's $100 million in that. There's $100 million just on the berm construction. Now we're at $130 million with the announcement the other day. Canceled river diversion, I could get into that, but the river diversion, everybody gets hung up on the only way to protect against floods is to divert the water. In some cases, that'll work. I think in Calgary, I think that's about the only hope you have is to divert it into that spring bank or some type of area like that. We were able in High River just to move a couple of areas out. You can't do that in High River. That strip of homes along the elbow is not enough. You have to do something much larger, and I don't understand it. I've been paying attention to it, but I don't like to see large areas of land impacted like that, but I just don't think you have another choice in Calgary. There's just too much development along the river, including downtown Calgary. So we canceled our diversion project because the landscape is that we don't have anywhere to hold massive pools of water. And if we did, the impacts environmentally would be absolutely catastrophic in destroying the Highwood River itself, and you would destroy the Little Bow River as well with that. So we just got rid of it, canceled 250, well, it would have been 500 million at the end of the day if they wanted to do that river diversion. And so we just said, let's cancel the 500 million, give us 30 million, we just saved you 470, we're a bunch of heroes now and everything's wicked. Community Donations Advisory Committee, this is an interesting one, and the Red Cross has been a real asset in how we do this. We got just over $1 million in donations directly to the town of High River for flood relief. It's a nightmare to handle those funds, an absolute nightmare as to who gets those funds, how much money do they get. I can't imagine what the Red Cross goes through when they've got, I think there was 46 million to deal with. So I know the Red Cross gets criticized for their administration and everything, and everybody's making $250,000 a year doing all this stuff, which is absolutely ludicrous. But handling donated money and getting it into the right hands is extremely difficult. Everybody in High River, we were criticized with this committee that we formed to deal with just over 1 million. Some people actually thought that we should just be giving $500 to everybody. Ralph bucks. Doing that again got us nowhere. It all ended up in the bars anyway. So, our parks, everything was, all this money goes to cleaning up parks and our pathways and, doing a lot of the mitigation work, the opportunities fixing bridges like this. And I'll just show this quick video. This one is in development right now. Following the floods of 2013, the town of High River was committed to making sure that our community was safe. High River is now the most well-protected community from flood risk in all of Canada. This is how we did it. Working alongside our residents, the government of Alberta, and affected landowners, the town of High River built a system of berms and dikes that would protect our community from river levels equal to June 20th, 2013, plus another meter of extra protection. All of the berms were engineered and constructed to highway-grade standards using materials that would withstand high water events. Along with the berm protection, we also moved 2 neighborhoods to enlarge our floodway and relieve key pressure points. High River is a community whose focus is people first. The protection measures have also provided us an opportunity to increase our Happy Trails pathway system. One of our goals is to be the most walkable community in Canada. Our mission statement of doing it better, being innovative, and daring to be different is not a statement, it's an action. Spaces have been rebuilt from sod to the playground equipment, as well businesses like the Highwood Golf and Country Club have also rebuilt and are moving forward at a rapid pace. We are a community that values all demographics, from children, young families, and retirees.
High River is an excellent town to live, work, play, and invest. High River's future has never looked better. Being the most well-protected community in Canada from flood risk provides the confidence our residents, businesses, and investors need to feel safe and to succeed. High River is changing and moving forward at a rapid pace. It's a special place, and you just have a seat at the lead.